Hey, hi, hello, welcome back. This is Pages with Postlethwaite. I'm Heather, or Miss Postlethwaite if you're one of my students. And I'm super excited to be here. We are going to talk about what I read in October for my middle grade readings. I've got such a great lineup of awesome books to talk about. But first, we have to show you something. Look at how cute this little sign is on my wall. Now, I have hung it too high. I'm going to have to fix it. I need it to go down. But fun story, last week a friend of mine called me out of the blue, texted me out of the blue, and is like, hey, I have something for you. Like, you do? I haven't seen you in forever. And they asked if they could come over, and I'm like, sure, why not? Come on over. So, when they came over, they had this awesome sign. So knowing that I would probably paint it lime green, which I did, I think it looks fantastic. And so shout out to Will. Thank you so much. So I'm gonna have to lower it on my wall. It's too high. My chairs are too low. So anyway, little happy thing from last week. Super cute. I am gonna talk about awesome books that I read this month. So I want to start with the one that I most recently finished, and I'm cheating just a little bit. I read it mostly in October, but I did take the first day of November to actually finish it. I just couldn't get it done, so it happens. Sorry. But because I read it mostly in October and it's got witchy vibes, it has to be an October book that we talk about. So this is The Witchlings by Claribel A. Ortega. If you are not following her, she is fantastic. I've got her on Instagram. I just started following her after I read the book. She's so much fun. And this book was fantastic. So good. I cannot wait to read more. There is a number 2. It even tells me what it looks like. So this was a delight. You have basically a society, a whole bunch. It's basically 12 towns. We're looking at one in particular. And our protagonist, who is right here, is Seven. And Seven and her friends are being sorted, basically. When you hit a certain age, everybody goes and they are sorted into these different covens. Well, there's usually a few extras left over. You don't want to be left over. You're called a spare, and the spares don't get into a coven. A lot of times they are witchlings forever. They lose a lot of their magic. There's just, they're kind of second-class citizens and treated really poorly. Seven and 2 others, Valley and Thorn, are the spares, and they form a coven. Rather than having their magic sealed and all of that happen, they propose to do the impossible task. So it's an opportunity for them to prove themselves. Crazy task that they are supposed to do. The book is fantastic. You watch these characters grow and learn from their mistakes and just become really close friends. It was so good. I'm not gonna spoil anything. It is so worth reading. It's a delight. So super good. I gave this 5 stars. So fun, so fun, so fun. The next one I want to talk about, I don't actually have because I listen to it on audio on my phone, and that is Nikhil Out Loud. It was really good. Nikhil is a voice actor, and he is one of the first Indian American actors playing an Indian American cartoon character, superhero. Things are changing, and Nikhil and his mom end up needing to leave California, where they've been for a while, and go back to where his grandparents are, who he really doesn't know very well. Needs to get his traditional Indian grandparents to understand him, needs to adjust to a new school and making friends. And Nikhil is just Nikhil. He's very much himself, and the things that he's worried about are making friends and that kind of thing. But he was very open in the fact that he is gay, and when he was interviewed for the school newspaper that came out. He also got cast in the school play. And now we've got an entire parental movement against him. I felt like kids would really understand it and maybe even recognize some of the things going on. Definitely a great read. What I think really loved about the book is that the characters are not perfect. And I am really loving this trend in middle grade reading. The characters are not perfect. They make mistakes. They feel uncomfortable. They don't know how to handle certain things. And so they make mistakes with that and they make corrections to it. And oh my gosh, what a great way handing that kind of a book to kids and saying, look, you are not alone. This happens to everybody, and modeling that we are all imperfect and that, hey, we can make up when we make mistakes. I love that. Another book that I read this month in October that does that same thing really well is Merci Suarez. So last month I got introduced to Merci Suarez, and this month I read the second one. So the second one is in 7th grade. Merci Suarez Can't Dance, and oh my goodness, I love Merci. I love her. I can't wait to read the third one. So this is by Meg Medina. Merci is trying to handle middle school yet again, 7th grade, and all the complexities of that. She is running a school store this go round. Merci is still dealing with a lot of the things that were in the first book. Her grandfather has Alzheimer's. She's really close to her aunt, and her aunt is kind of starting to date, and that makes Merci nervous. Like, are things going to change at home, and what's going to happen? Again, really authentic, realistic things that kids go through. So great book, 5 stars. Love Merci Suarez. Yeah, cannot wait to read the third one. So I read 4 graphic novels this month. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about those 4 graphic novels that I read. Of course, it's October, so, and I don't do scary. I do need to talk about another scary book, but I read The OK Witch. So we have The OK Witch, and then The OK Witch and the Hungry Shadow. Guys, these books are cute. They're not too long. Graphic novel. You have Moth, who is basically figuring out that she's a witch. And as she figures that out, tries to come to terms with it. She's figuring out why she doesn't fit in at school and kind of making new friends and just figuring out what's the right way to be a witch and to own those powers. And she gets to know her missing grandmother, and it was a delight. It was very fun. It made me laugh out loud. Kind of, if you like the Salem witch trial vibes, you're gonna really enjoy this, kind of set in similar circumstances but with a completely, fantasy oriented storyline. The story continues in this one. Moth is still trying to kind of figure out what it means to have powers. We're only a couple months later from this first book. She's got some really good friends and kind of figuring out that, you have to figure out if you want to be who you are or if you want to please the people around you. And I love the learning process that Moth goes through. Again, all of these protagonists, they're fantastic examples of what it means to be a kid. I read Real Friends by Shannon Hale. Now, I love Shannon Hale. She's written all kinds of books, the fairy tale kind of twisted fairy tales and that kind of thing. This is more of a memoir, graphic novel style of when she was growing up. This one falls a little bit on the younger middle grade. She's in like 4th and 5th grade, I think, in the book. And again, kind of reliving her life back in the 80s and trying to figure out what real friends look like and how to be a real friend. She makes mistakes I didn't find this one as engaging as some of the other ones. It was not my favorite. I'm gonna give it 3 stars. I see what she's doing. She's got a second one where kind of continue on with the story. It's set in the 80s. It is more of a memoir. I think those elements, because it is so realistic, and the fact that Shannon comes from a very conservative area, background and upbringing, I don't know that this will reach all audiences. That was my only complaint. I love Shannon Hale. I read her all the time. 3 stars, not bad. The last graphic novel that I read this month was El Defo. This is a really delightful one. Again, we're going back to the 80s, funny enough. It is a memory-based one, but definitely with some twists in there. Basically, Cece, obviously they're rabbits, kind of is the people element of them. But Cece, she has to go to a different school. She wears a hearing aid that is very visible with the headphones. Her teacher has to wear something so she can hear. It's a very moving book, and it kind of highlights pieces of experience that I would not normally have. And I love that we're getting a Real Voices look into kind of what it means to be deaf in the 80s in elementary school, the things that she had to face, the way people treat her or try to treat her deafness. It just makes it worse, and that the real friends are the ones that just see her as Cece and nothing else. It's a really cute story. It's, again, she's not perfect, and I love watching as we grow and we learn from that. Her friends around her, not perfect, and they grow and they learn from that. It's cute. It was a very cute book, and I can see why it won an award. It's going in my library at my school, so I love that. I think my students will like it. I'm going to talk about another book that I read, and that was Empty Smiles. It was the 4th book in the Small Spaces. It's not a trilogy. It's got 4 books in it. What is that called? Empty Smiles is the 4th one. Each one takes a season. This one was the summer. We're still dealing with the smiling man. And now we have clowns and dolls. And oh my gosh, guys, it's a middle grade scary. I don't like scary. And they did so good with this. I'm recommending these and getting them for my library for my students because I think they're fantastic. What do I know? I don't like scary. I gave that one 4 stars. Catherine Arden is the author. We still have Coco and Brian and I forgot the other character's name, all trying to defeat the smiling man. I thought they did a great job with it. What can I say? Carnivals and clowns and yeah, fun houses and mirrors and scary and dolls. What? Scary, creepy, gross. Okay. Yeah, that didn't make any sense. Next, This Is Not a Drill. This book, the cool thing about it is that it is written kind of in text messages. And so as the story goes, the characters and it's kids, the kids are all texting each other as their school does go into a lockdown for a real reason. Do they make the best decisions? No. Do they, is it pretty realistic for what kids would be doing? Yes. Do I think my students will love it? Absolutely. Absolutely. This will get my readers that don't love to read reading because honestly, how approachable is that? The only complaint that I have, honestly, and my kids probably won't care, is that I'm old. And so when it's printed like this, I don't know if you can tell, it's hard to read. So there were moments when I was really struggling with being able to read the text. Really good book. K.A. Holt is our author. I gave this one 4. I really think that it is very contemporary. The kids would recognize this as something that could happen. I think they handled it fairly well. I do think some of the kids made decisions that could have gone seriously wrong, but overall, Very good book. With my last book, which was Wolf Hollow. I listened to this one on audio. Look at the cover. Isn't that pretty? I love the like words forming the cover. I think there's a second one to this. Wolf Hollow is a historical novel. It takes place during World War II, but it's not in the war. It's actually back home. So you have basically a small town in Pennsylvania that has sent people to the war, and you have a lot of people kind of dealing with things here at home. The main character, I want to say, is Annabelle. Yeah, Annabelle has lived in this town for a while. Well, a new girl comes. Her name is Betty, and Betty is mean. She's mean-hearted. She's mean. She's really mean. A lot of bad things happen. We also have in this town kind of a, I want to say vagrant, but he's basically made his home there. He stays there. He goes by the name of Toby, and he's a strange person. He was in the First World War, basically avoids people, lives in an abandoned like smokehouse. Those who do interact with him, like Annabelle and her mom, don't have any problems with him. He just avoids people. So he's kind of a strange person. As you can imagine, some stuff's gonna center and kind of circle around him, Betty, Annabelle. It's a tougher read. It's a harder story. With it being a historical novel, and on top of that, kind of some of the things that they're going through, I don't know how universal it is for kids. I think that any of the kids that like maybe The Little House on the Prairie or like historical novels by Jennifer Nielsen, if that's something that the kids are reading, this book is probably something they would like. Otherwise, it's a little bit difficult. I would call this one a little harder. Did I enjoy it? Yes. I will give this 4 stars. It was hard. It was hard to read as an adult. So I think that the kids reading it will need to process it. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I probably will read the second one. Maybe not right away. But I will read the second one. That is what I read this month. 10 books in October. Yay! For middle grade. And we'll see you on the flip side. Bye!